Good morning, and welcome to part 29 of our study of the book of Ecclesiastes. As we start chapter 11, we're getting into Solomon's conclusions and findings that he wants to summarize this whole book with. And there are four of them. And the first one is found in chapter 11, verses 1 to 6. He says, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a serving to 7 and also to 8, for you do not know what evil will be on the earth." The first conclusion Solomon is drawing is that life is uncertain. Life is uncertain. So therefore, enjoy it, embrace it, understand it, and accept it. Now there have been three interpretations put forward for this verse, these two verses. The first is that when you invest, don't put all your investments in one place. As we would say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Solomon was a very wealthy man who was involved in trading, who was involved in commerce to a considerable degree. And it says in 1 Kings 9:26 that he built a fleet of ships at Ezra-Gabar, which is near Elath on the shore of the Red Sea. And in 1 Kings 10, it talks of the wealth brought to Solomon by his vessels. So Solomon was a trader. And one of the interpretations of this passage was, don't put all your wealth into one area. Don't put all your investments, all your finances into one certain aspect. As Solomon said, put it in many vessels, so that if something happens to one vessel, you don't lose everything. And this is certainly good advice, even though I'm not too certain that's really what these verses are meant to convey. But it is good advice. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't put all investments, all your money into one thing. There have been reports of people who were very wealthy who did this. Apparently John Connolly, from the governor of Texas, who was injured with President Kennedy in the assassination attempt. He had all his money in oil and gas, and he actually lost almost everything and went bankrupt because of this fact. So it's good advice not to put everything into one area. The second interpretation has been, don't put your seeds all in one area. Sow your seeds in many aspects so that if the seed doesn't grow, then other parts of your sowing will. And this is also good advice. Don't sow everything in one area either, or don't sow everything in under one condition. So again, it's be divergent, have some divergence and have some differences in what you do. But the main interpretation of this seems to be, cast your bread upon the waters. Solomon is a very wealthy man, as I said. And now he has talked before, and he's talking again about how meaningless, how much vanity is involved in wealth by itself. He has talked before that everything you do for yourself on this earth is pure vanity. And if you think about it carefully, you see how true that really is. When you think back a couple of 100 years, how many people do you know or have you heard of or are recognized for what they did or what they accomplished or what they built? What they did build is mostly gone. What they accomplished has been taken over by someone else. Even the laws and the regulations which some people have made have been changed. So what we do on earth is often just vanity. It's often meaningless in the end. So Solomon is saying, cast your bread upon the waters. You who are wealthy, you who have money, don't keep it all to yourself. Cast it in many areas. Feed the poor. Help those who are helpless. Give money to charities. And not just to one. Give a serving to 7 and also to 8, to anyone who comes along, to anyone who needs it. Give a portion. In metaphase of the book of Ecclesiastes, in the Ante-Nicene Fathers, by Clement, it was said this. He said, "Give liberally, and give a portion of the means to many, for you do not know what is coming, what the coming day does." In other words, it says here that, "For you do not know what evil will be on the earth. Give a serving to 7 and also to 8, for you will find it after many days." So the idea is, Solomon wants you to understand that give something of your wealth, of your means to somebody else. Give it through a church, give it individually, give it to charitable institutions, but give it to a number, not just to one. If one is not doing what they say they're doing, well, that's too bad, but others will. So give it liberally to others, because we don't know what the future may bring. Life is uncertain, Solomon is saying. So what you give today, you may need yourself later on, and someone may have to give it to you. There have been many people who have been quite wealthy who have been wiped out, as I said with John Connolly as one example, either through bad investments or through disasters, through calamities, through tragedy. So what you give today may come back to you, you may need. And if you don't reap it in this earth, then you may reap it in the future still. And that's what he's saying. Cast your bread, cast your resources in many different areas, upon many waters. Not just one, waters plural. And you will find it after many days. Whether it's an investment you do, a diversion of your investments, if you may do it properly, you'll find it and reap that investment in the future. If it's sowing grain, you'll find your harvest later on. If it's giving to charity, you'll either find that you get it back, either through your own feeling good, or in the future, even after this world, life is over. He says, if the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. If you have it, empty it. If you have something to give, then give it. Because this is what the clouds do. The clouds give the rain to everybody. Poor, the rich, the poor, the evil, the good, the fool, the wealth, the fool, the wisdom, the man with wisdom. They give it liberally. And this is really what James 2 is saying in verses 15 and 16, that if a brother or sister is naked and without food, and you say, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, but you do nothing for the physical body, do nothing for the needs of the body, what does it really profit? So we can preach and we can talk about God, we can talk about heaven, but if we do nothing for the poor and the needy in this earth, then what really does it do? What good does it do? It says if the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. It also says that if a tree falls to the south or the north, it's in the place where the tree falls, there it shall lie. There seems to be many aspects of people who, because they can't do much, they don't do anything. Because they can't seem to make a big difference, they don't make a small difference. What this says is a tree, even though it's fixed, even though it's immutable and not movable, does, while it's living, give shelter and shade and fruit to the area in which it stands. It may not be a big area, it may not be a big tree, but it does give something to the area in which it stands. And once that tree falls, if it's either cut down or falls through natural means, whatever happens when that tree dies, it's going to stay there. Nothing moves it from that point on. And when we die, our bodies go to the ground and they stay there. Now we can talk about the resurrection, we can talk about what happens after death, but as far as our physical body, of this physical body on earth, it goes to the ground and stays there, and we do nothing but nourish the ground in which it decays. So the tree in which it falls stays. Once it's dead, it can do no more good, essentially like it did before. So do good in the area in which you stand while you're still able. Because He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap, as it says in verse 4. In other words, people are so intent on trying to find out all the information they can and all the knowledge they can, sometimes it paralyzes them. If you do investments, you understand that there are so many different investment experts that they all give different advice. Warren Buffett is very famous for saying that if all the experts agree on everything, they're invariably wrong. So what you can do is by looking, trying to determine which of the wind's going to blow, which way the earth's going to move, what's going to happen in the future. If you try to analyze it too much, you can paralyze yourself, and actually you do nothing at all, which is really the worst scenario of all outcomes. So it says, if you observe the wind and will not sow, he who regards the clouds will not reap. As you do not know what is the way of the wind, or how the bones grow in the wombs of her who is with child, so you do not know the works of God who makes everything. In the morning sow your seed, and in the evening do not withhold your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, either this or that, or whether both alike will be good. Life is uncertain. No matter what we do, we don't know all the answers. We don't know what evil may be in the world. We don't know what the plans of God are. We don't know what sometimes will prosper and what won't. Therefore, if you try to analyze everything too much and try to get everything too perfect and try to find out everything you can about everything, you sometimes become so paralyzed that you do nothing. So what Solomon is saying, regardless of that, we don't know the future. Life is uncertain. So therefore work. So, do your diligence in the morning, do your diligence at night. Work as best you can at what you're at. Don't just sit around and do nothing. Put your soul into it, put your heart into it, and do the work that God has enabled you to do. In the morning, sow. In the evening, do not withhold your hand. Work. Make the most of your life. Make the most of what God has given you in this world. For you don't know what will prosper. Sometimes the things you think are least effective will be the most important in either your life or someone else's. We don't know. Life, again, is uncertain. So, therefore, do diligence. Work. Enjoy your life. Enjoy what you do as best you can. Because we don't know what will prosper. Maybe one thing, maybe something else, maybe everything. But whether both alike will be good or not, only time will tell. We don't know what God's plans are. We don't know what the future may hold, what evil there may be, what calamities or disasters may be forthcoming. So Solomon's saying, enjoy life. It's uncertain, but enjoy it. Work with the talents God has given you. Work with your family, with your friends. Don't withhold doing things, trying to analyze your life. Get on with it and give to those who need more than you do. Help those out who are in greater need of help. Give. Sow your seed on many waters, and your future, and in your future, you may reap the harvest of what you give. It says in Ephesians 5, see then that you walk not as fools but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. And in Matthew 6:34 it says, do not worry about tomorrow. Sufficient for the day and its evil thereof. And Luke 6:38 says, give and it will be given to you. For with the same measure that you give, it will be measured back to you. This is the advice of the Bible. And this is really what Solomon is saying. Sow your seeds on many waters, and in time it will come back to you after many days. Don't be paralyzed by uncertainty. But do what you can with what you have, and do it diligently, because life as a whole is uncertain. We'll get on to the next part of chapter 11 next week. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.